uh, air quotes, Atlanta-based hip hop artist 21 Savage was recently arrested, no big deal, and deported or primed to be deported soon, which is a big deal, to the United Kingdom. Turns out, brother was a British national all this time. Um, Now, Black Twitter, Black American Twitter, was a little bit more surprised that he was a British national all this time. We thought he was one of us. He was born and raised in Atlanta. Never really mentioned. I mean, he did mention in an interview a long time ago that his mother was from the island of Dominica, I believe. But he had always presented himself and portrayed himself as an Atlanta-based rapper. His culture was Black American. Now, that's fine. But you see, two things. I know you're probably thinking that I was going to talk about the 21 Savage memes that led to the Demi Lovato jokes, and all that, which I am. Demi Lovato is a white artist. I believe she sung in Frozen or something like that, who had a history of heavy drug use and drug addiction. And she had chimed in watching the hilarity that had ensued from the 21 Savage story from Black Twitter. There were a lot of tea and crumpet jokes about they didn't know that brother was British. Now, she chimed in and chuckled about the fact that he was getting deported. I believe her tweet was something along the lines of 21 Savage jokes are better than the Super Bowl right now or something. Now, there used to be a t-shirt back in the late 90s. Older black folks know. The t-shirt, and maybe it was earlier than that, but this is when I remember it. This is when people would walk around. I think the Malcolm X movie had just dropped. People still had them X hats and people had cross colors on. And there was a shirt that used to say, "It's a black thing. You wouldn't understand." And back in the day, white folks used to just respect that. Even the racist ones would go, "Oh, well, the blacks got their certain things and we leave them alone." That's my racist white guy accent, by the way. But they would respect it. They weren't always trying to figure out the latest slang. They weren't always trying to figure out the gossip that didn't concern them. We had our little spaces, they had theirs. Now, we still respect their spaces. You don't see too many black folks hopping into MAGA, forums uninvited. You don't see too many black folks hopping on 4chan. You don't see too many black folks jumping on Stormfront. We let white folks have their spaces. Black folks, we don't really get our spaces. There's always somebody from a white society trying to chime in, either trying to edit what we're talking about or listen in on what we're talking about. Now, what Demi Lovato didn't understand, because her tweet on its face seemed pretty innocent, but what she didn't understand is within the black community, if you're sitting in a room and black folks is roasting their cousin and you start laughing and you ain't family, that's going to be a problem. The jokes were largely on the fact that black folks didn't know he wasn't an African American. Nobody found the fact that he was getting deported the least bit funny. Black Twitter got to tearing into this white woman so hard that they blew her off of the social media platform. Like she literally deleted her Twitter. And that was a lesson to stay your ass out of niggas' business. Not a single other white person chimed in on those 21 Savage memes after that. Now, I pointed this out to show, because I really wish I could post up some clips about this. It was the entire diaspora clowning that white woman. I mean, it was brutal. She was getting clowned in Swahili. She was getting clowned in Gullah. She was getting made fun of in patois. I mean, every kind of black person was making fun of this woman. There were brothers from North Sentinel Island cracking jokes off on Demi Lovato. And it really brought the whole diaspora together. It showed that, showed what can happen when everybody's on the same page, which brings me to my main point. African and Caribbean immigrants. All this time, black folks have been comfortable staying out of this immigration talk. Because immigration talk, far and away, is usually about Latinos, specifically Mexicans and Central Americans, Central and South Americans. And the very, very simple reason for that is it's much more easy to come here uninvited from those locations than from a black country. You can come from some, Caribbean islands and sneak here, but most people of black descent who are immigrants, who are illegal immigrants, are people who are like 21 Savage, people who flew over here legally and overstayed their visas. Their visas expired. Anybody who's ever driven a car on expired tabs knows that that can happen quite easily. Something can expire. It's not like it's on his forehead, which is kind of ironic because he does have tattoos on his forehead. But that's not a sign of any criminality. And that's much different from somebody who's marching in a caravan trying to jump over a fence. Now, what's interesting about this story is 21 Savage has been arrested before, well after his visa had expired. 21 Savage, as you would imagine from being a famous rapper, is a very public figure. He didn't become a target, which is what they admitted. They said he was arrested in a targeted sting until he switched his subject matter up and started talking on a more conscious level. Now, what I want to talk about with this one is that the message that I saw from looking at social media and looking at African flag Twitter, that was that a lot of African immigrants and Caribbean immigrants are now on notice that you will be part of this targeting by ICE as well. But much to my disappointment, rather than these immigrants getting on code and realizing that we need to be a little bit more persuasive in our arguments for lax immigration laws, they did what they always do, which is try to shout down the only group that can help them in this situation, which is Black Americans. See, Black Americans are citizens of the country, but we don't share the same ideals as white folks. There's only two citizens in this country, white folks and Black Americans. Yeah, there's other groups that are scattered, but I'm talking about a real strengthened base of people. It's just those two. And we're the only one of the two that can be persuaded to your argument. The problem is that for too long, African immigrants have used their place in this country to kind of look down on Black Americans, and it's turned Black Americans off to the idea of y'all even being here. Africans come to this country and section themselves off from Black Americans before any accusations of African booty scratcher can be thrown out. You don't even talk to us. When you talk about us, it's always negative to white folk. You compete with us directly for things. And you undermine our political movements. You would never catch a Black American going into, say, South Africa and be pro apartheid. You would never catch that. But you'll find plenty of Africans that'll come here to America and be staunchly anti reparations. If Black Americans can't see you as reinforcements here, there's no point in supporting any form of immigration. So rather than seeing Africans kind of get in formation and realize that they need Black Americans here, at least until we help pass an immigration law for a year or two, I'm noticing a lot of immigrants, African immigrants, try to take this opportunity to tongue lash Black Americans in what they call re-education on what an immigrant can be. I think they thought that by simply explaining to us that immigrants can be Black immigrants too, that we'd get in line, because people really, 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 really understand that Black Americans have always been very, very big tent when it comes to Black race in America. We go by the one drop rule. I heard there's a YouTube content creator named Sensei Ashimatsu. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, who I really enjoy. She made a really good argument one time as to why Black Americans might be like that. And it was, we're so used to slaves being moved from one plantation to another. A lot of Black families are makeshift families. And we have instilled in us that when you come in, you Black, we know it's going to be rough for you. So we better look out for you. A lot of Africans don't have that mentality. A lot of Africans don't see other Africans as Africans. They see them as a different tribe. And that's why they see us as just another tribe to walk over. I don't want to generalize. It's not 100% of them, but it's enough of them over here to make that be the generalization. But they're not dumb people. So you would think they would put two and two together and realize, boy, if they're snatching up a guy like 21 Savage, who was so undercover that even the Black folks were fooled, I better be on guard. I better make some friends within the community. But instead, I'm seeing a lot of tongue lashing. I'm seeing a lot of, well, now you Black Americans can understand that it's more than just Latinos that are immigrants, and maybe you wouldn't be so ignorant. It's like, no, no, no. We fully, full well understand that Blacks can be immigrants. We've seen Jamaicans before. We've seen Haitians. We've seen Dominicans before. But the Dominicans don't know that they're Black. But we've seen Black immigrants before. We've seen niggas from Honduras. We done seen niggas from Cuba. We done seen niggas from Costa Rica, Colombia. We get it. The question is, do we give a shit? Answer is no. If you still got a stank attitude or some false air of superiority, you can go right behind Pueblo. Negroes don't have no use out here for people that kind of look like them. Don't do us no good. In fact, it makes things more confusing. We learned on the slave ship, all skin folk ain't your kinfolk. So if you're trying to get some sort of insulation from ICE, you're going to have to do a different approach to talking to us. You're going to have to come with some respect. In case you haven't noticed, Black Americans are in the middle of putting together their agenda right in time for election season. And so far, you ain't on it. And spoiler alert, there ain't no way, because I notice a lot of Africans and a lot of Caribbeans that come here, they align with the Democratic Party because they think they're going to be able to get cover fire from the Democratic Party. It's very, very pro-immigration. There's a lot of people of color, and you can blend in and pretend to be an African American. They have use for you because you can look like the black friend. But let me tell you something. The Democratic Party can't save you because the Democratic Party is falling apart. And the Democratic Party is falling apart because the Negroes are revolting. The Democrats have lost control of the slave quarters. And without black votes, the Democratic Party is dead on arrival. Couldn't get you couldn't elect an ombudsman without the black vote. Democratic Party couldn't win in Iowa without the black vote. Couldn't win in Utah without the black vote. And there are hardly any black folks in them areas. You're not going to be able to hide under you won't be able to hide under their skirt. If black Americans decided you're going and they don't want you here, we're literally the dam in the river that keeps you here. The Republicans been wanted y'all gone. The Democrats don't really need you. Not like that. They don't really care about you like that. You need Negroes from America. Ham needs Shem. How about that? Now, I know some of you guys may have your little funky ass citizenship and think, I don't need no Okadas to help me with anything. I can say what I want. Let me tell you something. We know how the game goes. You got an uncle, you got an aunt, maybe a parent. It's not fully in yet. Something's going to affect you. Hell, they could just grab you even if you are technically a citizen and swoop you and send you off back to a country that you ain't got no real connection with no more. You might really want to rethink all that Akata talk. You might want to put some respect on our names real quick because you're going to need us. And black Americans don't got no problem pushing that button. When we think immigration, we think Latino. And we know them Latinos don't like us. And we know you don't like us. So it will be a real smart move to start doing some kissing. Kissing and making up. Getting right with your black American brothers out here and your black American sisters out here. And maybe you might stick around a little bit because in case you forgot, you won't catch an African immigrant whose family came here before like 65. Definitely the 60s. Might be 65, might be 68, but definitely the 60s. Because you legally could not come here. You ever hear the phrase, America is a melting pot? It is. But what they don't tell you is that the recipe that it makes is called white people's stew. America was built so that Irish white people and Italian white people and German white people and Dutch white people and Portuguese white people could all come to the United States and just become white. We kind of throw that whole thing off, being black and all. But black people changed that rule. There really was a quota. How many Irish could come in, how many Italians could come in, how many Swedes, how many Frenchmen, how many Germans, how many Polish, how many Dutch, and how many Africans. And Africans was always at zero. As far as America was concerned, we were already at capacity for Africans, so no more Africans. Black people got their civil rights bills in the 60s, and one of the first things they passed was opening the back door in the plantation so that y'all could come in too. We brought you in this country, we can take you out. We've been being way too nice with y'all. Way too nice. Every time I hear some African accusing an African American of needing to do better, they're saying that African American bending to that will, I almost want to throw up in my mouth a little bit. We don't got to do shit for y'all. We've done too much for y'all. Haven't seen that one Google of resources coming our way from it. Chinese gets resources directly from China and get killer deals. Africans, you guys got diamonds and gold. Won't give me shit to sell, not to have, to sell, so we can make business together. Nothing. You really might want to start rethinking how you come at Black Americans. You really might want to work on that. Tide is shifting.